Well, President Trump's travel ban targeting several Muslim-majority countries was upheld by the US Supreme Court this week. The 5-4 ruling was a significant victory for President Trump after lower courts blocked previous versions of the travel ban.
It comes as 81-year-old Supreme Court Judge Anthony Kennedy announced his retirement, giving President Trump the opportunity to pick his successor. To take a look at US politics, we're joined by former White House staffer and political commentator, Professor Ed Blakely. Ed, welcome.
Good morning.
How are you?
Good, thanks. Good to see you. Now, actually, we might just start with those. We've obviously seen those protests across the country as far as the separation of kids from their parents at the Mexican border are concerned. 17 US states plus Washington, D.C. are suing the Trump administration. So any likelihood that that will make a difference?
It will. Remember, we are a nation of laws. And the states are suing under very good grounds. The separation of these children is illegal. And the president cannot violate the law, nor can his administration. So I think these suits will make a big difference in two ways. One of them, the United States is going to be liable. We've been liable for the Japanese internment. This is another liability case in which the United States is going to have to pay millions of dollars, maybe billions of dollars, to people for violating the law. The second is the election. This is going to galvanize the Hispanic population like you've never seen before.
What sort of division is this causing, not only within the Hispanic population, the general population, but also within the political parties, particularly the Republicans?
Well, the Republican parties are divided on this, particularly people who are judges and people who have substantial interest in law and justice. Now, there's people on the right in that, and they would say those people should be incarcerated, but treated like American citizens under American law, where their children are found respite in someone's home. That's very different from being shuttled off into an institution, which doesn't happen to Americans.
Now, as we mentioned, the Supreme Court upheld the Trump travel ban on countries, on Muslim majority countries. Is that the end of the matter? Because that's what he's saying. I think his tweet was, wow, and he said, that's definitive now, we know where we stand.
Well, you remember that was narrowed down very much, and there's some non-Muslim countries in there like Venezuela and so on. He got that passed under the same rubric that Obama issued similar orders. So it's a very narrow ruling, and very few people will be kept out of the United States under, because if they have any legitimate business, a letter from someone, they go past the ban. So it's not a big issue, but politically it's a victory for the president.
And how will that play into the midterm elections?
Well, let's stop there. There's something else. There's a resignation that occurred.
Yeah, because you're talking about, it's a Supreme Court decision. Now the Supreme Court, the makeup is changing significantly, because we saw Justice Anthony Kennedy, as I mentioned, he has decided to resign. Now, just describe to us Kennedy and where he stands, because he was appointed by President Reagan as a conservative, but he's sort of shrunk from that, hasn't he?
Well, he's conservative on many issues, like this one, the travel ban, presidential powers, and so forth. Even Obama's powers with medical care. But he is a liberal on issues like abortion, on personal rights and freedoms. So he was the swing vote. Who's going to replace him is a big question, because if we have a Scalia, who's very definitely conservative on both sides, then the balance is very much upset.
Yeah, well, there is no doubt, surely, that President Trump will seek to appoint a conservative, which would very much put it at 4-3 as far as the balance of the court is concerned.
Well, it's not so sure that there'll be a hearing. Remember, the Republicans would not hear anyone until an election, where the people could weigh in on the decision of the Supreme Court. There's an election coming up, and there are only 2 votes from keeping that hearing on selecting a justice from being held. And I think those 2 votes on both ends of the country, in Alaska and in Maine. Murkowski in Alaska and Collins in Maine may say, let's not have this vote. And if that happens, that vote could be delayed until there's a new Congress and a new Senate. no matter how long that's delayed, the president's chances of putting someone in who's very far to the right are diminished. Because the president doesn't want to be unpopular, and the court doesn't want to be unpopular. There'll be voices in his ear to pick someone like the last guy selected, who has not been that conservative. He's been a moderate conservative. And remember, Obama was going to put on a moderate conservative. The other thing is people do tend to drift when they get on the Supreme Court and have a lifetime appointment. Roberts could drift on the other side. I think we're going to see a few 5-4s in the future.
Now, Ed, there's been a lot of buzz around Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Who exactly is she?
Well, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is a New Yorker who defeated a 10-term New York sitting Democrat to run for office in the primaries.
How significant is that?
That's big news. That's a Bernie-type person winning an election in an important state with an important message. This may mean the Democrats have a message. Wow. But the message is clear. Do your homework locally. Run on local issues. Her opponent wasn't even in town most of the time. He didn't run very hard on the local issues like the schools and health care and jobs. The Democrats who won, if we'll recall, have been people who ran on local issues to the left or to the right.
Are we seeing a shift now, Ed, in the United States among the Democrats, a shift further to the left in the Bernie Sanders style?
We are seeing that in those districts where it works. But we're also seeing in California where a lot of lefties didn't win in the primaries and centrists won. So I think what we're seeing is what I call localization in the Democrats. They are not a united party with one voice. They're a bigger tent. That allows him to bring in suburban Republicans and the like. So I think the other thing we're seeing is youth. Think of the people who won in the Democratic Party. They're younger than Judge Kennedy, for sure.
Just very quickly, Mitt Romney, he's back. Are we likely to see him make another tilt for the presidency, do you think?
No, but I think what he's going to do is make a mark in the Senate. He's going to be the person who replaces John McCain. He wants to be a voice in America, and I think he's going to have a great platform for 6 years.
Okay,
He will not be counted upon by the president.
All right, Ed, we'll have to leave it there. Thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you.